your dolly-poly sleep has flown. Don't dare let her tremble for the way it should.
Imagine being so jealous and insecure, thinking another person is trying to steal your lover, that one night you torture and beat them to death. This is exactly what one woman did on January of 1995. She's Christa Pike. Angel's face, devil's heart. Christa Gail Pike was born March 10, 1976 to Glenn Pike and Carissa Hansen. Her childhood was somewhat troubled, mainly during the teenage years where her mother claimed that they would constantly get into arguments due to Christa's rebellious behavior. That and her mom was very neglectful around the time. Christa would eventually drop out of high school, but in 1994, with the encouragement of her mom, she would join a Job Corps program where she was studying to be a nurse's aide at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. However, Christa would find something where she thought was far more interesting than a better education: romance. For around the time, she met 17-year-old Tadaro Shipp. Not only was she interested in him physically, but also religiously. For at the time, Tadaro Shipp was a Satanist. The two began dating while Tadaro was very attentive to Christa. This made her feel appreciated, loved, and very jealous. And that jealousy came into play when she met 19-year-old Colleen Slemmer. Rumors began to spread, as well as accusations that Colleen Slemmer was trying to move in on Tadaro. And while people who were close to Colleen say that this was never true, it didn't stop Christa's jealousy and obsession to get rid of her imaginary rival. And according to some sources, it said that some nights Christa Pike would sneak into Colleen Slemmer's bedroom, and as Colleen woke up, Christa would be hovering above her, just staring. She made it known to her mother, and even pleaded for her mom to come get her from Job Corps. Colleen's mother, not listening to her daughter's fear, would eventually come back to haunt her. For on the evening of January 12, 1995, Christa Pike, Tadaro Shipp, and Shadola Peterson, a quiet girl who Christa made friends with, invited Colleen out with them to go to Tyson Park, which was close by to the university that they were dorming at. The invite was said at first was to make peace between Christa and Colleen and smoke some marijuana, but the reality was very different. Luring Colleen into a quiet, secluded area, Christa put her plan into motion. With jealous rage, she began to fight Colleen. Colleen fought back, but also during the confrontation, tried to reason with Christa to see why she was attacking in the first place. It was at that moment where the real horror began to start. Christa Pike had taken out a box cutter from her jacket and began to slash away at Colleen. As Colleen tried to escape, Christa and Tadaro kept preventing her escape, where it said for the next 45 minutes, they beat, taunted, and tortured Colleen with a box cutter, a meat cleaver, before finally taking a huge rock and smashing Colleen's skull, killing her. It was also during this attack where Tadaro Shipp would carve a pentagram into Colleen's chest, symbolizing a satanic sacrifice. Meanwhile, while all this was happening, Shadola Peterson kept lookout. After committing the murder, the three then hid Colleen's body in the bushes and returned back to the university campus. But not before Christa collected a souvenir, a piece of Colleen Slemmer's skull. It was this souvenir and Christa's proud bragging that would eventually be her downfall. Because within 36 hours of killing Colleen Slemmer, Christa Pike, Tadaro Shipp, and Shadola Peterson were arrested and charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. When police investigated, they found a logbook that showed all four leaving at the same time, but only the three coming back. Christa's bloody clothes, the piece of Colleen's skull that Christa kept as a souvenir, and a copy of the Satanic Bible in Tadaro Shipp's room. The news of the murder spread like wildfire. Upon arrest, Christa Pike gave a full tape confession where she took full responsibility and blame for Colleen Slemmer's murder. She felt if she did so, Tadaro Shipp and Shadola Peterson would walk free. It didn't work. On March 22, 1996, Christa Pike stood trial for the murder, where it only took less than 3 hours of deliberation for the jury to come back with a verdict. Guilty. 8 days later, on March 30th, 1996, they gave her sentence, the death penalty. All during this time, Christa's mom stayed in denial that her daughter could ever do such a thing, and even took some of the responsibility.
Christa does not deserve to die. No one deserves to die, regardless of the crime she's committed. She has a huge heart. To those of us who know her, she's still a little girl. It did not ever once enter my thoughts that Christa was involved in that murder. Once I found out that's what had happened, I still couldn't believe it. During the whole trial, I'm thinking those jurors cannot look at my daughter and see and know how sweet she is and convict her of this. If there's any one thing that I could change if I went back, would be that I would have spent more time with my children.
To which Colleen's mom had this to say.
Every child goes through broken homes or mixed up families or whatever. That does not give a child a right to, kill.
2 weeks later, on April 17, 1996, Shadola Peterson would plead guilty to being an accessory and was sentenced to 6 years probation. And on January 28, 1997, Tadaro Shipp was sentenced to life in prison plus 25 years with the possibility of parole in 2028. Yet, had he not been underage at the time, there's a good chance he also would have got the death penalty. Following the guilty verdict, many things had happened. The guards intercepted a letter Christa wrote to Tadaro, which says the following. In August of 2001, she was involved in a fight where she nearly strangled fellow inmate Patricia Jones to death with a shoestring, where she claimed she was protecting her friend, Natasha Cornett, who was being jumped on at the time. In 2012, she attempted to break out of prison, where it says she used sex and seduction to convince prison guard at the time, Justin Heflin, and Donald Kohut, who frequently visited Christa Pike in prison. The plan was thwarted before it even came into action. Not to mention the many years where she launched, canceled, and relaunched her appeals to overturn her conviction until in 2014, where her request to return her death penalty conviction was denied. It's November of 2019, and still, Christa Pike sits in a Tennessee prison death row cell where she awaits the date of her execution.
My dear Dolly Polly, shut your eyes, lie still, lie silent, utter